the wingman of Florida, Congressman Matt Gaetz, pleaded guilty in court today and promised to cooperate fully with prosecutors. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is threatening to abandon his former lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, who is also under criminal investigation. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. Maybe it's a coincidence, but the MAGA crowd seems to have a lot of criminals in it. I don't want to make generalizations, but there are more criminals or alleged criminals in Trump's inner circle than there are in a motorcycle gang or a Hollywood PTA meeting. If anyone ever needs to assemble an Ocean's 11 team of criminals for a heist, they could make one entirely out of Trump cronies. There's Manafort, he's our surveillance guy. Stone, he handles explosives. And then there's Rudy, he's in charge of arranging our getaway to Jamaica. That's right, Jamaica Queens, Holiday Inn Express, right next to the air train. No, Rudy, Jamaica the island. Okay, I'll switch it. But I can't promise I'll get our deposit back. Today, for example, close friend and ally of Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz pleaded guilty in court to 6 charges and promised to cooperate with federal prosecutors as part of the plea, which doesn't seem like great news for Gaetz.
Joel Greenberg, former Florida tax official and associate of Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz, was in that courtroom. According to court filings, he pled guilty to 6 federal charges, plans to cooperate with federal investigators. A criminal case involving Greenberg has led to a sex trafficking investigation of Congressman Gaetz.
We know that there were payments made for services provided that were all set up on a website. But in the plea agreement, it's important to note that, and this is where the key is, that the defendant agrees to cooperate fully with the United States in the investigation and prosecution of other persons and to testify, which is another way of saying that he has already started to sing and he is telling the prosecutors everything that he can as part of this plea agreement.
Yikes. I'd say Matt Gaetz should lay low for a while, but no matter how low he lays, you can still see the top of his head. He'd make a terrible whack-a-mole. Maybe he'll start wearing his gas mask again. Are you Matt Gaetz? Me? No, I'm a Daft Punk. Obviously, this is not good news for Gaetz. I mean, we already knew about the drug-fueled sex parties and the trip to the Bahamas with his other buddy, a Florida hand surgeon and marijuana entrepreneur, which is one of the characters in Florida Clue, along with a vaping gator in a Margaritaville tank top. Was it the vaping gator in the Tampa Publix with a crossbow? It was. It was also everyone else, everywhere else. We also already know that Greenberg and Gaetz are linked through suspicious Venmo transactions. And 2 late-night Venmo transactions in May 2018, Representative Matt Gaetz sent his friend, the accused sex trafficker Joel Greenberg, $900. The next morning, over the course of 8 minutes, Greenberg used the same app to send 3 young women varying sums of money. In total, the transactions amounted to $900. When Greenberg then made his Venmo payments to these 3 women, he described the money as being for tuition, school, and school. Ugh, not a good cover, dude. Would have been less suspicious to just use a bunch of eggplant emojis. Also, you know it's suspicious when someone sends tuition money on Venmo because parents don't use Venmo. They're like my parents. They think Venmo is the lost Marx brother. It would have been less suspicious if you had just written for crime stuff, then everyone would think it's a joke. Like how you Venmo your friends to split the check after dinner, but you put something funny in the subject line, like to buy that diarrhea medicine you asked for. Although, side note here, but why do we need friends on Venmo? It's for financial transactions. The Wells Fargo app doesn't have a chat room. Hey, I see you refinance your condo, ASL. So obviously it's not good news for Gaetz that Greenberg has started to quote unquote sing, especially since Greenberg has been known for a long time as Gaetz' wingman.
The close ties between Gaetz and Joel Greenberg detailed at length in a Politico piece titled The Congressman and His Wingman. Greenberg introduced him to a handful of young women who he met on Seeking Arrangement, a dating website that connects attractive women with so-called sugar daddies, friends claimed. Greenberg regularly trolled the site for dates. The two shared more than one girlfriend, according to interviews with 8 friends and associates who know the 2 men. Gaetz described Greenberg as a wingman to some acquaintances and even promoted him as a potential congressional candidate.
It's not illegal, but it does feel like once a man hits a certain age, they shouldn't have or be a wingman. Fly solo, little bird, for you have wings of your own. But on the topic of wingmen, one could argue Rudy Giuliani served the role for Trump. Rudy, of course, is currently under investigation for his ties to shady Ukrainian characters in his effort to dig up dirt on the Bidens during the election, which could, among other things, be considered unregistered and illegal foreign lobbying work. It's a sign of just how serious this investigation is. The feds raided Rudy's apartment and office last month, and yet this morning the Daily Beast reported that Trump has blown off Rudy's pleas for help. Trump, as well as several of his legal advisors and longtime confidants, have been hesitant about swooping in to help the embattled Giuliani. Trump's silence has led to simmering frustrations among members of Giuliani's inner orbit, who privately allege that the ex-president's team is working to convince him to hang Giuliani out to dry in his hour of need. First of all, if anyone needs to be hung out to dry, it's Rudy Giuliani. He always looks like he fell into the city aquarium and got squirted with squid ink. Second, I'd imagine every hour in Rudy's life is an hour of need. The dude butt dials reporters, got tricked by Borat, and doesn't know the difference between up and down.
From the top to the bottom, from the middle to the side.
Can you imagine trying to give this guy directions? If you told him to take the D train uptown and meet you for lunch at the Tavern on the Green, he'd end up on the Coney Island boardwalk fighting a seagull for a half-eaten bag of potato chips. Also, of course Trump is considering hanging Rudy out to dry. What did Rudy think was going to happen? His client is famous for not paying his bills and turning on everyone around him. I'm shocked Trump hasn't called in an anonymous tip to the feds. Hello, I have information regarding criminal activity committed by Rudy Giuliani. What's my name? It's, golf, hat, Donald Trump. Oh, damn it! Don't stand there while I'm trying to think of a fake name. Dad, I'm so sorry! Although I have to say, some of Rudy's requests for help from Trump do seem pretty ridiculous. For example, Rudy wants to prove that the work he was doing was for Trump, not on behalf of any foreign entity, which Rudy believes would therefore prove that he didn't have to register as a foreign lobbyist. According to the Daily Beast, among Giuliani allies' pleas have been for Trump to issue a strong verbal or written statement saying Giuliani's work during the Trump-Ukraine saga was done on behalf of then President Trump and therefore not part of an illegal foreign lobbying effort. I'm sorry, Rudy, but Donald Trump saves his strongly worded written statements for important things, like calling a horse a junkie. Besides, I'm not sure that would work out the way Rudy thinks it would. It couldn't be illegal. I was doing it for Donald Trump. Rudy's like a hitman who thinks it will help his case if the guy who hired him talks to the cops. You guys got it all wrong. I didn't kill that guy for no reason. I did it because he asked me to. Can I go now? Why are you handcuffing me? Is this a Borat? Legally, you have to tell me if this is a Borat. And apparently even Trump is smart enough to know that he shouldn't just come out and say Rudy was doing all that shady and possibly criminal work on Trump's behalf. In recent weeks, Trump himself has argued behind closed doors that he wouldn't want to say Giuliani was doing all of the Ukraine work on Trump's behalf. Trump's reasoning is based in the ex-president's insistence that he didn't always know what Giuliani was doing during the Ukraine effort, or concocting with his Ukrainian pals, several of whom Trump has privately dinged as idiots. So Trump isn't mad that Rudy did a bunch of potentially illegal stuff. He's mad that Rudy bungled it by hiring morons. But you know, when you get mad that Rudy hired morons, just remember, you hired Rudy, so... You may recall Rudy was working with two guys named Lev Parnas and Igor Fruman, a.k.a. the cute one and the shy one, who were later arrested. I'm not sure, but I'm guessing that's who Trump was referring to, and can you blame him? I'm not saying these two are goons, but they do look like the guys who hang out with Muggsy and Looney Tunes. They met with Trump and were photographed with him multiple times, including at the White House. And after that White House meeting, Parnas said that the big guy, as he sometimes referred to the president in conversation, talked about tasking him and Fruman with what Parnas described as a secret mission to pressure the Ukrainian government to investigate Joe Biden and his son Hunter. In the days immediately following the meeting, Parnas insinuated to the two people he confided in that he clearly believed he'd been given a special assignment by the president, like some sort of James Bond mission, according to one of the people. Now, if you think these guys don't look like super spies and Trump should have known better, remember, this is what Trump thinks he looks like. So maybe when he saw Lev and Igor, he was like, wow, I feel like I'm looking at Daniel Craig looking into a mirror because you are both dead ringers. I'm going to call you 0014. The point is, Trump is deeply entangled in Rudy's mess, not to mention he's got his own legal problems, including multiple criminal investigations of his own. One of those investigations, which is being conducted by the Manhattan DA's office, is apparently so advanced that law enforcement officials in Palm Beach County have actively prepared for the possibility that Manhattan District Attorney Cy Vance could indict former President Donald Trump while he's at Mar-a-Lago. Among the topics discussed in those meetings, how to handle the thorny extradition issues that could arise if an indictment moves forward. I'm guessing the plan right now is just to cut a hole in the roof, tie a hook to his toilet, and chopper him out. It's no coincidence that MAGA world is full of convicted or alleged criminals. Fundamental to the movement's worldview is the belief that they are above democracy and above the law. It's the reason these same people have been pushing the big lie that the 2020 election was stolen from Trump, and yet virtually the entirety of the Republican establishment has decided to stand in lockstep behind Trump. The entire enterprise is corrupt.
From the top to the bottom, from the middle to the side.
This has been A Closer Look. God's Love We Deliver cooks and brings over 2 million meals a year to men, women, and children living with HIV, AIDS, cancer, and other serious illnesses, and they need your help now more than ever. If you're watching this online, you can hit the donate button. Stay safe, wear a mask, get vaccinated. We love you.